So Pudge says that he would like to do the intro today. So do you want to tell him what we're doing? Okay. And what else? And do you want to tell him why we're doing this? As Pudge said, this week we were supposed to be showing the repotting of my giant Rhipsalis that I picked up not too long ago, but for some reason I thought it was a good idea to film during like the peak of the heat that day, and I was in a very bad mood, and like filming on top of actually doing the repotting was, yeah, it was just a lot. So the footage, as I expected, was just garbage, so I just scrapped it. And yeah, I took to Instagram. Oh, this GIF is so funny. It's probably one of my favorites. But yeah, I asked Instagram what they wanted to see, and it looks like the plant shelf tour and routine maintenance one. And eventually I'll film like all the philodendrons in my collection, but yeah, we'll save that for another week. I've been struggling a bit trying to balance this new like YouTube thing with work and personal life and actually tending to the plants. Unfortunately, some of these plants have been severely neglected, so I'm kind of glad I'm doing this video this week because it's like killing two birds with one stone. So one of my most frequently asked questions on Instagram is like, what plants do I have up here? Who have I acclimated down to normal humidity? I would say that at least half of them are like nursery plants, like stuff that I've bought locally, and then the other half are imported plants that I've had to acclimate down. So I think it'll be kind of fun to finally do like an in-depth tour of who I have here, how I have them potted, kind of show you what things look like when you neglect it for a while, like this guy, and then kind of go through like the no drainage potting maybe. I don't know, we'll see what happens. But what you don't see behind the scenes in between takes is the fact that my camera overheats very fast and very often. I don't have a spare charger yet, so I have to like recharge it, and there's a lot of sort of like downtime in between takes, and I'm hoping that I can get through this before the sun goes down. So I guess I'm just gonna get started because yeah, it's gonna be a long day. So as usual, it's me, the headless YouTuber, and my very breathy, panty dog. Oh, he wants a belly rub. Okay, I'm gonna just start. This is my philodendron Dark Lord, and I feel like this is such an underrated plant. There's not a ton of people that talk about it. There's not a lot of interest when I see it being sold locally, but this is like, yeah, this is a great plant to just kind of put wherever if you need like fillers on a shelf or something, or like, you know, you just want a nice sort of like uncommon plant that you don't have to keep in a greenhouse. This one didn't need to be acclimated down or anything. I just kind of bought it from the seller and then I stuck it on my shelf and it's doing just fine. So it's already given me this leaf in my care, and another one's on the way, and I just love these abaxials, the color of them. Honestly, anything that has like a reddish, pinkish abaxial is like, it's a winner in my book. So I love how dark these leaves are, and I just love the contrast of the red underneath, and it's been a really easy grower for me. As you can see, I've got it in Lechuzapon and Leca, and this is what it looks like when you don't keep up with flushes. And what I mean by that is maybe every other week I'll go around and just flush my plants that are in glass pots, and I'll use hydrogen peroxide and like let the bubble sort of like do its thing. I'll swish it around, And I usually do that even before you can start seeing any buildup. And the key to keeping these jars clean of mineral buildup and algae is being proactive with the flushes rather than waiting till you like start to see buildup. And I'll show you a plant that I've been really good at upkeeping maintenance with. So yeah, this is a philodendron dark lord. If you've never seen one, they are delicious. And I'm hoping that you can't hear my camera focusing too much because I still haven't gotten a mic. Okay, so this here is a philodendron gloriosum, and this one's very juvenile. It's really little. This one's actually for my grandma, and it was donated very generously by my friend JR, who yeah, he gifted it to her after, you know, I kind of told my plant friends that my grandma was getting into like imported plants or like harder to find plants, and she even has an exo now and she watches my videos. Hi grandma. And yeah, she gets this little guy. So this is a new leaf, and you can see the pink in the venation. And if you have a philodendron Dean McDowell, this is where your pink comes through on the new leaf. When it comes out, it comes from the philodendron gloriosum parent. So yeah, that's this guy. I feel like Rhipsalis plants are just so underrated, and I'm like on a quest to collect every type of Rhipsalis, and I'm hoping one day I just have a shelf that is purely just Rhipsalis. That would make me so happy. So this one, I think I'm gonna say this wrong. This is a Rhipsalis salicornioides. You can laugh at me. I'm just, you know, I'm a hobbyist, guys. I don't know everything. So this is, yeah, a Rhipsalis salicornioides, and I just got this from a local nursery, and it was much smaller when I got it, but now it's starting to like hang over the top and trail. But let me show you the big one that I got on Marketplace. It's right here. This is my big guy, and when I tell you that this thing brings me so much joy, it really does. I just love Rhipsalis. I think they're so fun. They're generally like easy to keep. Just give them a really good soil, like, you know, your typical aeroid soil. Give them a decent amount of light, and yeah, they'll love you back. So this was only maybe like 3/4 of the entire plant that I got. I did gift a lot of it to some of my very dear friends. But yeah, sharing is caring. So that's a really great Rhipsalis if you have not, if you haven't sort of gotten into the world of Rhipsalis. This is a really good starter one. Okay, this is a Philodendron mexicanum, a juvenile form. I think I'm trying to just like, I'm starting to clear out the bottom shelf, and I'm just working my way up. So I'll show you a more mature one later, but this is a juvenile Philodendron mexicanum, and like I mentioned, I am just like a sucker for these reddish abaxials. Like, yeah, there's nothing I don't like about this plant. It's a very easygoing plant. It acclimated down to lower humidity like a champ. I didn't have any issues with it. I do have it in pond right now, and it's doing just fine in pond. Fudge. The water line is a bit higher than I typically keep it, but you know, it's fine. There is a bit of algae buildup on the top. Again, I've just been really bad with sort of keeping up with general maintenance lately, but I will do all of that today. So yeah, these ones develop like little ears and a cute little sinus when they mature, as I'll show you later, but even in the juvenile form, it's beautiful. And then this is a Begonia maculata whitei. I really went through it with this plant. When these were first available locally at our nurseries, I sort of went ham, like I went crazy because I just love them. I think that this is probably one of my favorite begonias. I'm not huge into begonias, but I would say like this is like top 3 for sure. And again, the red abaxials, they just get me. I really struggled with this one. It was much bigger when I first brought it home. There's water in here. It had a third stalk that completely died. This is one of the original leaves, and it was kind of dealing with the whole like crispiness thing that plagues begonias. But I feel like with the right soil, I finally got it right, and all of these new leaves that have grown in my care are like fully acclimated to 30% humidity, and they're doing just fine. I do have this one in, gosh, I'm like spilling everywhere. I do have this one in a pot with drainage, just because I do have another begonia with no drainage holes, and that one, yeah, it wasn't doing that great. So because I'm not that well versed in begonia care and just like understanding what they like, I just, drainage holes, whatever. So yeah, that's this guy. I've kept some really sad plants down at the bottom. This is my Syngonium podophyllum mojito or something. I have this one just planted in this pot with leca, and I mean, I can see a new leaf starting to come out and it's dead. This one, yeah, I got this from a friend as a cutting, and he had it in a very high humidity exo, and I was like, I am not sticking this long boy in there. So I just stuck it on my shelf, and it kind of threw a fit. I feel like a lot of people find Syngoniums to be easy care, but I really don't have that experience with them. I actually find them to be more finicky. This one actually needs to be repotted. I want to get it in something where I can see the roots, and maybe I'll show you what that looks like. But anyway, here's my very sad and sparse looking Scindapsus pictus silver splash. And this is actually for my sisters and my mom and just my family in general down in California. I've just been kind of propagating stuff for them, but this is a good example of a plant doing really well in no drainage potting. One that I've really maintained the algae buildup and the mineral buildup by just doing a hydrogen peroxide flush, and I will show you how I do that later. But yeah, I've been really good at sort of keeping up with this one, and you can see there's like basically no buildup on there. And I do fertilize this one with liquid gold leaf and Marfil, and typically when you fertilize with Marfil, you're gonna get a lot of algae buildup because it's literally like phytoplankton based. And yeah, you got to be really on top of your flushing care when you pot like this using those kinds of fertilizers. So anyways, yeah, Silver Splash is great. Like I thought that this might be my favorite Scindapsus, but after having it for a while, it doesn't spark as much joy as it did in the very beginning, but I do still really love it. And yeah, I'm just glad to be able to bring some down to my family because this isn't as common down there. This is another very underrated plant in my opinion. This is just a epiphyllum blah 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 queen of the night cactus, orchid cactus. I got this one as a huge plant, and I have since split it up into multiple plants because of how insanely fast it grows and how easily they propagate. If you follow me on Instagram or you know me, you know that I just love a good strap. Like I love strappy anthuriums, but these leaves feel unlike anything else, and I just love them so much. So I'm not much into the flowering part of it, but I do really love these leaves. Next plant is this. I think this is a I don't know, Pudge. I think it's a Thanksgiving cactus, Easter cactus, Christmas cactus. I don't know. It's some holiday cactus, And this is actually a small cutting from my big plant on the balcony, which I'm trying to keep out there year round. Hopefully it survives. But yeah, I just, I needed a filler plant, like something in the back. If you've seen any of my photos on Instagram, you'll know that I sort of like that like really wild, sort of full, not a lot of negative space look for my shelf back there. So plants like these that just don't require much are great fillers for like, behind the bigger plants. And yeah, so this one's just in water. I do need to move this to, I think I'm gonna move it to leca or pond. The original plan was to move it to soil, but since I have allowed too many of these water roots to grow, I think it's too far gone. So I'm gonna just keep this in passive hydro because it's doing really well. This is a very, very beautiful reverted Monstera Adansonii alba variegata. I got this from my friend Erin. She has struggled with her variegated Adansonii, and yeah, she bought it locally and basically it never gave her a variegated leaf. Yeah, whatever, I'm not gonna speak on that. But anyway, I got a cutting from one of the reverted parts, and to be honest, it's a beautiful specimen. Like, it's got really great genes, it's got good DNA. These fenestrations and these holes, they're freaking beautiful. So yeah, this has actually been one of my favorites, and I do plan to get this on a pole to beef up these leaves because I cannot afford an escaleto, so this will have to do. And I do have this one growing in lechuza pond, and it's happy as a clam. These leaves tend to turn yellow, they tend to get really limp fast, so I felt like passive hydro was the best bet for this. Yeah, it's doing good. Next up is a very sad looking Scindapsus pictus silverian. This part used to be part of a much larger plant. I find the silverian to be one of the more finicky Scindapsus varieties. They just tend to like die, and I don't know why. So I do have this one in leca now. If I can get it out of here. Oh, I've got it in leca and pond. So you can see the roots are doing really well. This was basically rootless when I got it in here. It just had these like little aerial roots, and I've had to since push out new roots from them, but at least they were viable enough to give me life, thank goodness. But yeah, I'm propagating some of these in my prop bin right now, so hopefully I can add a few more to it because it's looking very, very sparse. But these leaves are just beautiful. I think that if it wasn't such a finicky plant, this would probably it would be my favorite Scindapsus variety. I just love these leaves, they're beautiful. Okay, so this is a Scindapsus pictus exotica, and I have to say that this is probably my second favorite type of Scindapsus. So the first one would be silverian, and then exotica, and then silver splash. But I just love how big and beautiful these leaves are. They're stunning. So this one started as like a 3-leaf rooted plant, and it was in soil. I cut off a lot of the soil roots and I repropagated it in water, and then I moved it to leca, and now I think it's in a mixture of leca and pond, or it might be just pond. I'll know once I lift it out of here. Oh, just pond. So this is another plant that I've been really good at doing hydrogen peroxide flushes with. You can see that there's not a ton of algae buildup. There's actually like almost none. And right now I'm doing a hydrogen peroxide flush every other week. And I don't know why I'm very picky and choosy about who I maintain algae buildup with. Clearly I have favorites, but yeah, I really do baby this one just because I got an exotica from my sister back in like 2018, or maybe it was 2019. It was a 1-leaf cutting. I loved it. The leaf was like this big. It was huge, and I killed it. And I I don't really like to say that word like, oh, I killed it, but I literally killed it. Like, I stuck it in a corner and I just didn't give it any attention, thinking that it would be fine in like the humidity dome that I had it in, and I just forgot about it. So I kind of did kill it. But this is my redemption and it's doing really, really well. I just find that scindapsus does really good in passive hydro. I know that a lot of people grow scindapsus in soil. My friend Natasha has a beautiful exotica that was in pond, and then she moved it back to soil because pond is very high maintenance. Like, you've got to refill these suckers like every few days or else it just goes bone dry. So I get it, you know, she has kids, she's homeschooling, and ain't nobody got time for that. So yeah, it's back in soil, and it's much bigger and happier than mine, but you know, mine is well on its way there. So yeah, this is my exotica. I'm like blabbering. Honestly, I feel a little flustered because I feel like I'm always racing against my camera overheating, and eventually I will get my setup rigged in a way where I don't have to worry about that, but now is not the time. This is my philodendron green Congo, and I want to say that this is one of my favorite philodendrons of all time. I know that that's kind of like a big statement, but it's a common plant, it's an easy plant. The leaves tell you exactly what they need. When it gets thirsty, the petioles, they droop a lot. They get really, really low and limp like this, and it just tells you that it needs water. When it has some kind of pest, it does things like this. This one did get some spider mites, but this damage is actually from extra floral nectaries, and I did have to clean some of that sap off of the back that like burned through it. But other than that, I have a big Rojo Congo in my kitchen, and the new leaf was it was telling me all sorts of things, and like doing a closer inspection, I found that it had thrips, but the elimination of those thrips was actually really easy on that plant because the leaves are so big and broad and sort of just like easy to wipe away and to apply whatever you're using, systemic, Dr. Doom. But yeah, these are great if you are looking for just like a common house plant that you don't really want to fuss with too much. This is a good one. Just keep in mind that they are very wide. The growth pattern of them sort of grows like 360. I've just sort of trained this one to all look forward, but I think I've just gotten lucky because my Rojo Congo in the kitchen is kind of growing every which way. But yeah, this is one of my favorites. I love this one so much. It's getting hot. Okay, this one is my Dischidia oeantha, and this is the only Dischidia that I have in my collection. I got this one from a friend who had it mounted on like a piece of, I think it was like fir bark or something, and it came like that at the nursery, and it just was very, very unhappy. So I removed it from there. I cut off all of the roots and I started over. I know like there's a lot of you eye rolling at the fact that I'm just constantly cutting roots off, but you know, plants, they grow roots, and if they don't have the roots that you want, then freaking chop them off. It had soil roots. I didn't want soil roots. I knew that I wanted to grow it in passive hydro. So yeah, I chopped off the roots. I started over, and it's doing really happy despite the fact that I've been very bad at maintaining the algae buildup on here. So I've got to get this one cleaned too. Oh my gosh, we have such a long day. My poor camera. So yeah, this one's really fun. I think that a lot of people like to grow Dischidias on like trellises, but I'm not really a huge trellis person, if I have to be honest. I've sort of been thinking about getting more into Hoyas just because I feel like that Millsbow cabinet back there, it just looks so cute when you've got little Hoyas that never grow. That's not throwing shade. I think Hoyas are really cute. I think that I want to get more into Hoyas, but I'm not going to go like the trellis route. Like if I can just make them sort of trail and just do whatever, that's my preference. And that's sort of what I've done with this Dischidia. when I first got this plant, all the leaves were like really wilted and they had the texture of like a wrinkled ball, just gonna say ball. And yeah, it's like nice and perky now. These leaves are really, really stiff and firm. There's lots of new growth happening on the sort of base of this plant and then towards the end as well. My camera is probably making all types of sounds, but you know, I feel like you guys are used to it by now. So anyway, that's that. And then this is my Scindapsus trubii dark form. And there's not really much to say about this besides the fact it doesn't grow. One of the leaves are going out. This is one of the original leaves. New leaf coming in. I have this one in a mix of leca and pon, and it's doing happy as a clam. This one is a heavy feeder. I feel like it requires a lot of fertilizer to hold on to its growth and to push out new growth when it's in passive hydro. Not so much when it's in soil, but that's just my experience. But yeah, these leaves are really fun. I originally had this one in a greenhouse, and anything below like 50% humidity, these leaves would just like curl right up. So it's been kind of a long process getting it to live out on the shelf, but I feel like we're here because this leaf was grown on the shelf and it's really happy and healthy, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, this is my fishbone cactus. And this one has just grown so wildly, but some of the new growth is starting to like beef up in size, because before I was just getting these little sort of like dinky ones like this with not a lot of like of that rippling. Wow, the focusing on here. I wasn't getting a lot of the rippling, but now some of this newer growth has yeah, more of that like fishbone look. So this one is like forever thirsty. I really thought about moving this to passive hydro, especially since I noticed that these little things started growing in here. I don't actually know what this is. I think that it might be some kind of fungus, because I am using myco, or I did just apply myco, but yeah, I'm not sure what that is. Is it mold? Is it fungus? I do need to get it out of here anyway, so I'm not too fussed about it. But yeah, if anyone knows what that is, let me know. So anyway, I'm gonna get this one out of soil today and into brand new soil and just yeet whatever the heck this is. This is a Ficus triangularis, and I was kind of scared to bring this one home because of how finicky the variegated version is of it, but this one's been just fine. My friend that I got it from kept it in a very high humidity exo, I believe, and I just took it home and stuck it on my shelf and hoped for the best, and it's been really great. It's given me 5 new leaves in my care, and I haven't moved it from the substrate that he potted it in, which is leca, soil, and lechuzapon. So this is a parfait. This is a next level parfait, but it's doing well. I do need to repot this, and I'm going to be doing a lot of repotting today, which I'm not prepared for, but anyway, I think that my neighbor is watching me film. But yeah, Ficus triangularis. This is a philodendron Paraiso verde, and this is probably the most variegated and nicest leaf on this one, and the rest are just sort of like meh. Like kind of weird actually. They have, I'm not gonna say it has mosaic, but I mean, the growth pattern of them sometimes, I'm like, do you have mosaic? This one got burned on my grow light. You can see the bulb. But yeah, I do not particularly love this one for the variegation specifically. I have mentioned in other videos that I just love these long leaves with the ears and the sinus. I just want them all. I don't care if it has variegation. I don't care if it's purple or pink or blue. I just want it. And that's that. So I would not mind. Ew, it's sticky. Ugh. It's got like so much extra floral nectaries. Let me see if you can. Come on, $1,000 camera, you can do it. There we go. Is it? So yeah, you can see it's got all this extra floral nectaries on the stem here, and also on my hand. Oh, that was anticlimactic. So anyway, this one does push out a lot of that stuff on the petiole from what I've observed. But yeah, I wouldn't mind if it gave me more leaves like this, because this is so fun. Like, I feel like this variegation pattern is just so unlike a lot of the variegated plants out there. And it kind of looks like a cow, like a cow's variegation. Is that what you say? No, their pattern. Oh my gosh. So anyway, yeah, philodendron Paraiso verde. I did repot this one in, which video was it? My plant chores video? No, my soil video. I repotted this one. And I've been pretty good at maintaining algae buildup on this one as well. But you can see it is doing really good in this container. No root rot. The roots are like really nice and healthy, and it just pushed out this new leaf here, and yeah, pretty happy with it. So I already showed this one in my Anthurium favorites video, but this is an Anthurium vitarifolium, and you can see that it's doing really well in this pot with no drainage, but I have gotten pretty behind on the algae buildup maintenance, so I do need to get this cleaned out today, because this is, I would consider this pretty bad. It hasn't really affected the plant much in terms of like the health of it, but I typically do not like when my pots have this much sort of mineral and algae buildup down at the bottom. So I do have to get that cleaned up, but for the circumstances, it's actually doing really well. Still hasn't dropped any leaves. We do have a bit of yellowing down at the bottom here, and I think this was from the fact that I let it dry out so severely. Like, it was bone dry. But it's still holding up like a champ. And I would say that this is probably going to be one of my all-time favorite plants ever. Ever. That's it. Get a vitarifolium. This is my Rhipsalis bassifera. I have shown this one on, I think it was the Exo build. I did add a little bit of this into one of the Exoterras, and it's doing really well in there. I feel like if you're new to Rhipsalis and you maybe are scared of like the care and like you're not sure if you can keep them, I would start with the bassifera, because I find that this one has been really forgiving to me. It had a pretty traumatic repot when I took it home, and it was super root bound. I split it up into like 6 different plants. I have some growing all around the apartment. I gave some to friends, and despite being poked and prodded at, it has prevailed, and it's pushing out a lot of new growth down at the base. It's much longer now than when I received it. It was about this long when I got it, so just starting to trail. None of these really long ones here were on the plant when I got it, so this one has been really fun to watch grow. It's been pretty easy. I just have it in aeroid soil. There is drainage holes and like a drip pot that's like connected to it. When it's thirsty, it starts to get a little bit like crinkled like this. I don't even know if you can see what I'm pointing at, but this is another very visual plant. It'll show you exactly what it needs. You'll know when it's thirsty, and even if you like forget a watering or you let it go a really long time without water, it's just, yeah, it's very forgiving. I have another Rhipsalis here. This was the first Rhipsalis trigona that I got before I got my massive one. These were pretty hard to find when I picked this up at a local nursery. It was the only one they had, but now they're getting a little bit more common. Yeah, this one's been pretty easy too. It did get a little bit bleached out. You can see like sort of these lighter ones back here because it's directly under a grow light. So now that it's getting a little bit bigger, I think I need to move it from its current spot. But yeah, this one is a fun one too. They call it a trigona because there's 3 sides to it. They're very like angled like this, and yeah, they're fun. This one also is living in a mixture of leca and soil, and you can see here I have not kept up with the algae maintenance, so I'm gonna have to get this one cleaned out as well. And then I have 2 philodendron Brazils here. I don't know, I had this one at first, and then I acquired a larger one and I didn't want to combine them, so now I kind of just keep them nestled together and create sort of like a fake super full effect. These ones are very prone to getting thrips if you live in a thrippy place like I do. I swear, I feel like Canada or BC is the land of the thrips. I never had thrips when I lived in California, and the thrips out here are just wild. So anyway, I had this one. This one's never had thrips. This has never had thrips, and I hope to keep it that way. But this one also had a very traumatic repot. It was crazy root bound. I literally just like sliced it. I sliced it off and I just stuck it in here, and it's kind of came back to life. It looked really sad when I first put it in here and I didn't think it would survive, but she has bounced back, and she also needs some love because this one is a heavy fertilizer plant as well. So yeah, the algae buildup is a bit faster than the plants that I don't fertilize all that often. So I don't think I'm gonna get this one cleaned out just because it was so hard to get it in here, and in general, vining plants are really hard to get back in and have it look somewhat decent. And this one already looks like a hot mess, so I don't want to mess with it anymore. I am gonna maybe do like a quick hydrogen peroxide flush, and we'll just, you know, we'll just let it wait till it's super root bound, and then I'll just get it out of there. But you pick your battles, and this is not one that I'm willing to take on today. This is one of many Rhaphidophora tetraspermas that I have in the house. These are probably one of my favorite plants of all time, which is why I tend to hoard them. And this one was a cutting that I got from my friend, so it's still in water, and I do plan on growing this one in passive hydro, so I will move that today. And unfortunately, as many Rhaphidophores do, I find these to be kind of difficult to grow, just depending. I mean, I don't know really too much about the whole tissue culture, non-tissue culture thing, but I find that some Rhaphies are so easy, and then some Rhaphies just like won't give you roots, or they won't give you new growth without rotting like this. So I think this is one of those difficult ones that I'm really gonna have to work for. So I do plan on getting this one into, I think I'll do a mixture of leca and pon. I'm starting to see some of those secondary roots growing out of this primary root, so that's how I know that it's ready to be moved out of water. I showed this one in my Mars Hydro video, which I posted last week. This is a philodendron alati undulatum. I think I'm saying that right. I probably could be treating this one a little bit nicer, but it's been a champ just living out on my shelf. It basically went from like 80% humidity down to 30% overnight. And I noticed the first night that I brought it out, it started yellowing a bit at the oldest leaf, and a little bit more at the tips here, but I'm not super worried about it. Despite the wonky and sort of weird growth pattern, you would think that it's very thirsty, but the leaves are really firm and the roots look good. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one so far. This is a mid-cut, so the new leaf that's gonna come out of it is probably gonna be tiny, but you know, it's the price you pay for mid-cuts versus top cuts. And I did get this one from a friend, and I just love the way that these leaves look in general. They kind of remind me of like a Homalomina, kind of like an Ernestii. It's sort of like a mix of them both, and I love both of those plants. So yeah, this is a great plant. I haven't seen these around that often, but I think they kind of sort of just blend in with like, you know, just like the typical green philodendron foliage, and I tend to flock towards those. I really, really love those. I don't know if you guys can tell by now, but I'm not super into like the variegated plants. I just love a good green leaf. I don't care if they look similar, I want them all. And then this one also has sort of like Plumanii looking petioles and Plumanii looking abaxial with like the ruffling and just the flat petiole. Yeah, this has been a great one so far. I feel like I'm saying that like after every plant. This one's growing great. This one's doing good. This is gonna be an annoying video, I can tell already. I showed you guys the smaller one earlier. This is my big orchid cactus mother plant. I think it's like Epiphyllum oxypetalum blah blah blah. I'm not gonna attempt it. But this one, it doesn't really have a specific kind of growth pattern. I feel like most people grow orchids up trellises, but if I don't cut that footage out, I did mention earlier that I just don't really like trellises all that much, and I kind of like to let plants just grow the way that they want to grow. But yeah, this is, I mean, it has now like tripled in size since I put it in this pot. I've got some new leaves here. This one has been in like the oldest, stalest soil since I want to say early last year, and it's thriving. But I do know that I need to get it out of this because I'm having some breakage here because of the weight of these stems. A lot of them have just sort of snapped in half. These leaves down here are like completely just bent. So I do need to figure something out, and I'm gonna kind of get that handled today. I showed you earlier the juvenile philodendron mexicanum, and this one is a more mature one. I did buy it this size, so I'm not gonna take credit for the size that it's at right now. This was the first leaf grown in my care. It was already unfurling when I acquired it, and this little ear just broke off, so yeah, it just looks kind of sad. But I do have another leaf on the way right here, but they're really, really red when they come out. Like, you can see how much red this has, but it kind of like fades a little bit as it hardens off, and it doesn't stay like that really bright red. And like these ears, like they've lost some of that red as well. But yeah, either way, it's just a nice subtle like contrast to this like glossy green leaf blade, like the adaxial. I just like, that word escaped me. But anyway, this one is still in moss. This one has been kind of a, what's the word? It's been a challenging rooter for me. It didn't really like being in water. It didn't like being in pond. It didn't like being in leca. So I just went the pond and moss route, and it's finally started putting out roots, although the roots don't look wonderful. I can't even really see them. Maybe I'll show it to you once I take it out of here, but I feel like it needs something else. I don't think that this is the right sort of substrate to get it rooted, so we'll kind of experiment and make that decision later. This is a fern leaf cactus. I don't know the like scientific name or whatever. I'll plug it in, but yeah, I got this from a friend. It was just this 2-leaf cutting. It was, I can't remember if it was rooted when I got it, but I rooted it in water. As soon as it pushed out some tiny little roots, I moved it to moss, and now it is living pretty happily in soil. It could probably use a refresh because this is like feeling a little bit dry and stale. It's been a while, but getting it in and out of these pots are not the easiest, and I made this myself. It's not anything fancy, but it works. I basically just get these like plastic pots, and I cut a hole down at the center, and I just stuck the roots in there. There was a little bit of root breakage when I got it in, but it bounced back, and I'm hoping to see some new growth on this soon. But these are really, really fun when they're like big and bushy and trailing, and there's like multiple sort of like growth points coming out of like just one central pot or whatever. But you know, you take what you can get. This is not a very common plant. You can't just like buy these at a nursery here. So I was really grateful to get just these 2 cuttings and kind of like scratch that itch that I had for it. This is a rickrack cactus, and I have it planted the same way as my fern leaf cactus. And I feel like this one is confused a lot with the fishbone cactus. They're not the same. This one is much stiffer than the other one. It doesn't like bend as easily as the fishbone cactus. The little spines, or whatever you call this, they are a bit different. Maybe let me go grab the fishbone. Now, this specimen isn't the greatest to compare it with. I kind of just got these as a rehab, so it's not like, you know, what like a nice healthy rickrack cactus would look like, but you can see how they differ. They're not the same. This one is much more fluid. It moves a lot more. It's softer. Like I can bend them much more easy than like these ones. Like these are really, really stiff and hard. But yeah, I love both of them equally. If I had to pick one, I think that I prefer this one over this guy, but I mean, you know, whatever. They're both great. Pudge is like fully asleep. Well, he was. So Pudge is obviously sleeping next to me, and he's in one of those, he's having one of those days where he's like honking a lot. I don't know how else to describe it, but there's a few different types of like snores he has. He has this like sort of soft like purr type of snore, and then he has ones that just like fully honk. So you'll hear it later. But this is another of my Rhaphidophora tetraspermas. This one I propagated from stem actually, and the first leaf that came from it was a monster. Like I have never seen a plant propagate from just like a rootless, leafless stem and just push out this like beast of a fully fenestrated leaf. So there are actually 2 plants in here. This was the first leaf on one of them, and then the second one was this one. This was the first leaf. This is what a typical sort of like new stem propped Rhaphi looks like. I was 100% shocked to see this one, and yeah, very, very impressive. So again, I love Rhaphis. I'm trying to grow a few of them not on poles and just kind of let them trail and do its thing and see what happens. So I'm really liking this one so far actually. I'm about to spill everywhere, but yeah, so far so good. And then I also have a philodendron 69686 here. This one had a bit of a rough time. I water propagated it and then put it in Letruzepon, and it was doing fine, and then it rotted, so then I moved it to Leca, and then it rotted, and it looks like it's still sort of on that rotty sort of path. So I think what I'm going to do is just start over. A lot of the new growth anyway has been really nice and steady. It's got the sinus, and it's, you know, it hasn't reverted back to like juvenile form, but yeah, I think this one just needs a little bit of love, because this is not what you want your roots to look like. So despite being a philodendron, and I find that philodendrons are quite easy to root, this one is kind of given me trouble. So yeah, gonna start over on that one. And then here I might be getting this ID wrong. I'm still sort of like understanding all the different type of Rhipsalis varieties and things like that, but I think this is a Rhipsalis flacosa. I love how nice and fat these are. I keep seeing this one labeled as like mistletoe cactus or Rhipsalis bassifera. I don't think this is bassifera, but again, I'm like such a Rhipsalis noob. I really don't know all that much about them, so I'm not the one to go for IDs, but yeah, I think this is a Rhipsalis flacosa, and I'm kind of excited for when this one starts trailing, because I just got this one not too long ago, and yeah, it's had pretty steady growth. All of these little like light lime green ones are all brand new growth, but it was pretty much this size when I got it. So yeah, I can't complain. Also, this one is also in a mix of leca and soil, and I'm not seeing really any new, oh here, you can see there's some new roots happening down here, so you can tell it's nice and happy, and yeah, that's it. That's all I got. So this one is a philodendron Heteracea var oxycardium, often mislabeled as cordatum. To my knowledge, there is no cordatum in cultivation, and it was just always mislabeled as cordatum when it was Heteracea var oxycardium. Although looking at, I think I've only seen one photo of a true cordatum, and it looks very similar, so I understand why it was confused. But this is probably one of my favorite trailing plants of all time. The Micans, or Heteracea var Heteracea, is my favorite, and then this one is like the second runner-up. They are attractive to many pests. I've lost a lot of oxycardiums to spider mites and to thrips, so yeah, I have started to preemptively treat all my plants for them before I even have the problem. But this one is just in a Wally Grow container. I do put some leca down at the bottom, and then I fill the rest with soil. And I actually potted this one in my plant chores video, which was from a few weeks back if you wanted to check that out. But it's doing really well since the repot. It did shed a lot of leaves in the first few days after, but it's since then bounced back. Everything is looking really perky now, and yeah, can't complain. This is a philodendron Plowmanii, and I got this one, gosh, a month ago. I could be wrong. I featured it in my propagation video, and I took a chunk cutting off of this because it was big. It was like this long. And I got this one potted in moss, and it's doing really, really well. All those nice red fuzzy roots are brand new, and still no movement on this growth point, but you know, I can't complain. The leaf is still really nice and firm and happy, although it did sort of catch some sort of like fungal thing. I'm really excited because I have heard a lot of amazing things about Physan 20 from people who live down in the States. My friends and I got something similar. I think it's called Phyton 20, and it's used to treat fungal things like this. So I'm going to experiment with that this month, and we'll definitely be doing an update video because I find that I've been having a lot of sort of like fungal issues with plants that are outside of my greenhouses, which is kind of weird because if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I am a heavy mister and I don't use fans in my greenhouses, but those are actually pretty fine. This one was living out on this shelf when it started developing some of these like weird, suspicious looking spots. So I'm gonna get that treated as soon as I can get my hands on the antifungal stuff. So anyway, otherwise, it's a great plant. I love the shape of these leaves. I love the texture of these leaves. I think they call this one like Plowmanii like narrow or something. I feel like there's so many like different names out there, but there is the Plowmanii that has like the really wide, like big sort of like puffy looking leaves. I want one of those, but this one is great too, and I'm excited to see what the new growth looks like, and hopefully this leaf, I don't lose it to whatever fungal thing has plagued it, but it doesn't look like it's spread, which is good, and I probably just jinxed it. This is a begonia tamaya, and this is my all-time favorite begonia. I got this one from my friend Erin, and I just love everything about it. I love how sort of like dainty and small these polka dots are in comparison to the whitey eye. I love the color of these leaves. They're not as like dark green as the whitey eye, and it's kind of like seafoam green. It's almost the same color as my middle finger. I mixed this color myself. Maybe I'll call this color Begonia Tamaya. Anyway, this one has like a pinkish abaxial, and it's not very like stark. It's super subtle, and I did struggle with this one too. When I first brought it home, the leaves were really like rich and like a little bit darker than this, and I just, you know, I don't really understand begonias all that much. I wasn't fertilizing it as much as I think it needed to be fertilized. So as soon as I got it out of the old soil, I put it in something really like nitrogen rich, and I've been fertilizing with liquid gold leaf very regularly, and it's started giving me all this new growth down on this stem. And honestly, like the color kind of came back to it because it was really like pale and washed out before, and I thought it wasn't gonna make it. But yeah, it's doing okay. And I did have this one near a humidifier for a while, and now it's kind of just like living on its own, and I'm not getting any more crispy edges like this. This happened when I first kind of put it out on my shelf, but this leaf grew in my care and not a ton of crispiness, so I am pretty happy about that. So this is a philodendron bilietiae, and this is just like a great low humidity plant that doesn't require much like acclimatizing once it's got like nice roots on them. This one's also living in a neglected drainage holeless container, and you can see how much sort of algae buildup is down there. And this is what it looks like after months of no hydrogen peroxide flush. And like I mentioned earlier, I don't know why I'm picky and choosy about who I flush. It just, you know, I just give some more attention than others, and that's just the way it's gonna be. So I do need to get this one cleaned out, but otherwise it's doing really happy. I chopped off the top to give one to a friend in a trade, but it woke up this axillary point here, and I'm gonna see some new growth, even though it's probably gonna be teeny tiny. But otherwise, I love these orange petioles. I love the contrast with like the green leaf, and yeah, these are just really fun. I've got a really massive one back there, right there. Maybe I'll bring it here and show you, but I think I prefer them when they're really tiny like this, when they're smaller. Not that I don't love my big one, but I don't know. It kind of loses a little bit of that shine as it matures, and it gets really matte and dull, and I don't know, it doesn't quite have that same sort of like appeal, I feel. So yeah, while the image is still fresh in your mind, I can't even fit this in the frame. This is a mature philodendron bilietiae. This thing is like half of my size. Like, legit, it's huge. So like I mentioned earlier, as it matures, oh, there's like extra floral nectaries everywhere. It gets more matte and dull, and I don't know. I love it, don't get me wrong. I love bilietiaes. I think they are very underrated. I don't feel like they get as much love as I feel they deserve. But you know, the more for us, I guess, that do love billies. And this one, this one did have the top cutting intact when I got it, but it had rotted off, and yeah, now I'm back with sort of like more juvenile leaves. But this is still much bigger than I would say like a small specimen like that one would give you from kind of a broken cataphyll. But yeah, it's starting to beef up. This one's a little bit longer than the other one. This one opened up not too long ago. This is so sticky. There is EFN everywhere. Do you see it? It's like glistening and it's sticky and gross. But anyway, yeah, this one's kind of growing weird. Like, what you doing, buddy? I've tried to train this one to like look forward, but it doesn't want to, so I'm just gonna let it be. And I also have this one in a no drainage hole pot, and it's doing just fine. I did repot this one maybe 4 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, so even if there was like a bit of algae buildup, it wouldn't show just yet. But this is one of the plants that I'm very diligent with. I just did a hydrogen peroxide flush about a week ago, so I won't need to do that today, but yeah, this one's doing good. I need to stop saying that. Everyone's doing good, everyone's fine. So this is an Anthurium crystallinum, and this used to be part of a really big, beautiful 4-leaf plant. And I think I acclimated it down a little bit faster than I should have. It went from being in 90% and then it went down to 70% and then 30% overnight. And pretty much like in the next 2 weeks, it just dropped all of the other leaves and just held on to this guy. So yeah, lesson learned. Crystallinums do not, well, mature crystallinums do not like to be shocked with their humidity levels like overnight. But you know what, like for what I put it through, this guy is just hanging on strong. I got a lot of these yellow edges when I forgot to water it, and it's in moss right now. So when roots dry out in moss, it really dries out. So yeah, I mean, it's probably ready to move to a substrate now, like soil. Do I want to do that? Not really, but we'll see. Otherwise, I really love this one. I've tried to sell it a few times just because I have so many crystallinums, but for one, my friend Alice won't let me sell it, and then two, every time I go to take photos of it to sell it, I'm like, no, bad idea. So yeah, this is that Anthurium crystallinum. So this is a philodendron gloriosum, and this new leaf just over the winter, a lot of my plants that are right on this shelf, especially the top 2 shelves, they really struggle and they suffer because the heater is right in front of the shelf. Maybe I think it's like 10 feet away. I don't know, I'm not really good with measurements, but yeah, during the winter it's just brutal. So this one luckily emerged at the tail end of last week, so the heater has been off for a while, and I didn't touch it as it was unfurling, as tempted as I was, and it paid off because this leaf is beautiful, and it was worth the very long wait because this plant did not give me any growth during the winter, despite my other gloriosums pushing out pretty steady growth. And you can kind of see some of that pink coming through as well. I showed you on the smaller gloriosum, but yeah, if it starts to fade and it turns into this white color as it hardens off, but when it's still brand new and unfurling, it's really pink. And I'll show you sort of the abaxial here. There's a lot of pink in the back. I don't know if you can tell. Can you tell? No, it's sort of washed out. The lighting's not great today. It's kind of overcast and gloomy, but yeah, on philodendron Dean McDowell's, one way that you can tell you have a McDowell is that the new leaf has some of that pink from the gloriosum. So yeah, I love these guys. Whoa. This is a philodendron Dean McDowell. And a Dean McDowell is a hybrid cross of a philodendron gloriosum and philodendron pastazanum. And I feel like it got the traits, like the best traits from both of their parents. And this is just like the dream philodendron. Yeah, this one struggled a bit in my care. I repotted it last year, and I did it outside. It was kind of a chilly day, and it just did not like that at all. Half of the new leaf at the time just completely died off, and I wish I had photos of it, but yeah, it just like aborted. And the other leaves as well started to abort. The roots rotted. It just like went through everything that a plant could go through, and luckily I was able to rehab it. I got it out of soil. I chopped off most of the dead and like rotted roots, and I started over in moss. It was living in moss for about 7 months, and then I finally was able to move it back into soil, and it's been really, really happy in soil ever since then. I do have it in a pot with drainage just because of the track record that I have with this plant. I just didn't want to risk anything. But yeah, it's on the up and up, and it's doing really well. I feel like even though this leaf is not as big as the ones that came before it, I will say that it's much more pillowy looking than these ones. Like, these are really big and they do look like pillows, but this is incredible. This is amazing. I'm always in awe of this plant, truly. So yeah, I feel really lucky to have this one. This is like a forever plant, like I will never be without it, unless it dies, but by choice, I will not give it up. This is a philodendron mayoi. I've heard it said all 3 ways. I'm gonna say mayoi. I'm gonna say mayoi, even though that's probably wrong. This one was propagated from just this leaf here. It used to be a big plant with a huge wingspan. It did not like being moved from its like previous home into mine. I took it home in the middle of winter in 2019, and it threw a fit. So it shed almost all of its leaves. Half of the stem like rotted off, so I had to just chop it. I saved this leaf. I gifted 1 leaf to a friend, and luckily it has bounced back because for being like a mid-cut, this wasn't even like the top cutting of it. The growth is actually pretty, it's a great size. So it does have another one on the way. So I think that I'm like sort of on a good path to having like my full plant back. But yeah, I find that this is such an underrated one. Not many people talk about it, or it's not as desired as I kind of assumed it would be, just based on how much I love this plant. And if I could get my hands on another, I totally would. But yeah, this is philodendron mayoi. It's something. This one was way too big to fit in my little area over there, but this is a Monstera deliciosa Brazilian common form. And I would say this is probably my favorite plant in my entire collection. Like, if I just had to pack it all up and go, and I could only bring 1 plant with me, it would probably be this one. And I just love like how firm these leaves are. I love how close the pennations run, or like how deep the pennations are, and how close these like inner fenestrations are to the midrib. They're just really good. And there's not like a huge difference, I would say, to like the regular deliciosas, but yeah, I mean, even the subtle differences make such a huge difference in my opinion. So yeah, so that's one of them. And then over here I have a Monstera Thai Constellation. This one I really went through it with this one. I got this in an auction for a friend, and it was auctioned as rooted, but when I got it the day of, I inspected the roots and they were all broken and rotted off. And these were very expensive plants. The one that I bought completely died and I couldn't salvage it. So that was probably one of like my biggest plant losses to date in terms of like how much I spent on it. And yeah, it was unfortunate. And I was hoping that like the seller would take initiative to make things right, but it was pretty obvious that she kind of wanted it to be my problem. So I'm just like not the type to put up a fuss, you know. I just took it as a learning lesson. I told myself I'm never gonna spend that much on plants ever again. Like on one single plant, I will never shell out that much money. So yeah, a very hard, expensive lesson learned, but luckily my friend was able to save hers, and it's again now in my care because she had a baby recently and just needed me to care for some of her more expensive plants. It is in pawn, and it's doing pretty okay. I don't want to move it too much. It's kind of an awkward sort of plant to move around. But yeah, I'm not like, I think I'm just scarred from the situation before. I'm not like a huge fan of these anymore. I much prefer just a regular green Monstera. And this one did have some scale recently, and I just saw some that I missed. Where is it? Here. Do you see it right there? So I have to give this one a thorough clean again because it looks like I missed a lot. But you know, after you deal with thrips, stuff like scale is like easy peasy. You don't even really panic or bat an eyelash anymore. So yeah, I'm gonna get that cleaned up today as well. I honestly did not think it was gonna be this warm today. It's very hot in the apartment and I'm fully clothed, so I think I need to strip down a little bit before some of the real like labor begins. Hopefully that little like in-depth tour was enough for you guys. I know I kind of like rambled and said sort of the same things over and over again, but after you do this many, it's like, what the heck else do you say? I'm actually really exhausted after doing that, and I still haven't like actually gotten to the care yet. So it is really gonna be a long day and probably a long night, but luckily the plant shelf is now cleared. You can see sort of like what the natural light looks like in here midday. In the morning, this shelf gets like direct sunlight, but because it's so far from the windows, I don't really worry about things like burning or like getting bleached out or whatever. I do have grow lights kind of stuck under each shelf. These are the Domia 20-watt light panels, and they've worked really well. I've been using them for a few years now. These are some of the original ones that I had from like 2000. I think I got my first set in 2018, and no lights have burned out. They're going really strong, and yeah, I really like it. And then all of these lights are plugged into a timer down here in a cable management box, and all the lights turn on at 8:30 p.m. and turn off at 10:30 p.m. And then I've got an Atmo fix here. I haven't heard the best things about the sort of like portable humidifiers that you can buy on Amazon, and I don't know if they're made by the same manufacturer, but I haven't had any issues with my Atmo fix brand, and I know they don't sell on Amazon. You can only get it through their website. What else? Besides getting this shelf cleaned up, I do want to kind of like tidy up some of these wires because it's looking a little bit nutso. And oh, before I forget, I did mention this in my houseplant tour, but this is the Hickenbottom Itagari bookshelf from Wayfair Canada. I don't know if they sell this still, and if they do, the last time I checked, it was like 3 times the price. But if you just go on Wayfair and you search like Itagari bookshelf, you'll find so many that are similar. And yeah, I really love this shelf. You can see when Pudge was a puppy, he like gnawed at the corners pretty badly, and he got the other corner too. And it's funny, short story time, when I told Wayfair what happened, I was like, hey, this was totally my fault. My dog like chewed up my bottom shelf. Can I just buy a replacement shelf? They literally sent me an entirely new shelf, like a whole new one. And because I am not smart, I sold it. Like, why am I so dumb? And originally I was gonna sell this one, but I don't know, when I started taking photos of it and started taking photos of like the edges, I was like, I don't know, I kind of like that it just reminds me of my baby boy and when he was a puppy and sort of in his like naughty stages. So I ended up keeping the damaged ones, and I used the other one for a while and I just realized it was kind of overboard, and I regret it now because we're in a bigger place and I totally could have just like stacked them side by side and had like a mega wall. But anyway, now is not the time to talk about my life regrets. So first things first, I'm gonna get this actually cleaned up, get it wiped down, sort of fix these wires, and then I'm gonna get some of the bigger plants back up here after I kind of give them a wipe down as well. And I need to just like time lapse it for the next few minutes because I am tired of talking And if you can tell by my voice, I'm like very winded and it's hot. So I'm gonna change, I'm gonna open the windows and I'm gonna charge my camera, and then I'm just gonna get this back filled up because we're losing daylight. Okay, so I don't know if this is the best angle to kind of show you what I'm doing, but it's the best I've got. And I just ate 2 big slices of pizza, so I'm feeling very like mid first trimester right now. You can see I'm a little bloated, so, and I've got dog hair all over these pants, and I'm feeling like a hot mess. It's very hot, as I mentioned. I opened a window, you might hear some noise, but I'm gonna plow through this. So let me just get this shelf cleaned up and then we will get into the plants. I don't know why I just did that. Okay, the first plant that I'm going to work on is my Monstera the Brazilian common form. What I have here are just some like is this microfiber? Some fuzzy socks from the dollar store. And I'm just going to use it to clean down these leaves. So I'm not going to go through and explain every single plant, but you basically just wet the leaves, and I should put a towel down. Actually, I will put a towel down. I'm just gonna wet all of the leaves. And then I'm just gonna, I can't even see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to wipe away gently. And this kind of just like removes like the really thin layer of dust on top of the leaves. And you just want to keep those clean because dust buildup prevents like optimal photosynthesis, and it gives you a chance to kind of inspect the plant and make sure there's nothing sort of weird going on in terms of pests or fungal stuff. To be honest, I'm not super duper worried about pests with this plant because I've mentioned before, these leaves are thick, and I imagine that a pest would sort of have a difficult time trying to suck any life out of this thing because of how thick it is. I'm not saying that it's like, you know, invincible, but I'm not as worried about this Monstera as I would be with sort of like a regular one because thrips love those things. The next thing I'm gonna do is check to see if the soil is wet, and this is what I do for plants that obviously aren't in clear pots. And I don't have many plants that are in like sort of solid pots like this because I just like to see what's going on with the roots. This is actually a separate plant. I just kind of stuck it in there because it fills in some empty space, but for the sake of demonstrating this, I'm going to remove it. So I'm just here in the soil. I'm just going to poke inside, pull back up, and it is dry, like bone dry. So I do need to water this guy, and because this leaf just opened, I feel like I can fertilize it because it's been maybe, I think it's been 2 weeks since I last fertilized. So I'm gonna go get my fertilizer water. This is my fertilizer water, and right now I'm using liquid gold leaf, and I'm loving it so far. This is a 4-liter jug, and the dilution is 2 milliliters per liter. So I've got 8 milliliters of liquid gold leaf in here. So we are here with the Thai constellation up close and personal. You might want to skip forward if you get queasy with pests, but I'm about to show you the scale situation. Ta-da! Yeah, these guys are gross, but they're kind of easy. You just pick them off, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So if it would focus. So what I'm going to be using today to handle this scale situation that's actually kind of bad is rubbing alcohol and Q-tips and a sterilized earwax scraper. And no, I did not use this for my ears. This has always been used for my plants, and I've used it in a few videos. I use this to clean my chunks, and it's kind of like my all-purpose guy. He comes in handy. So I'm just gonna start picking off this scale now. I'm gonna go in first with my Q-tip, and oh, they're just coming off really easily actually. I thought I was gonna have to scrape these off. I can almost guarantee you that I missed a whole bunch. The baby ones are really, really hard to spot. It's easy if you have a magnifying glass, but I do not have one on me. So over the next few weeks, I basically just have to keep monitoring this and keep an eye out for any new guys that appear. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna get this wiped down with a bit of insecticidal soap, and yeah, hopefully this one will only need maybe less than a handful more of treatments to get this scale thing under control. So yeah, it's not the worst, but it's obviously not ideal. Obviously, the rule of thumb if you find pests is to keep it isolated from your other plants. But unfortunately, with a plant this size, I don't really have that luxury. And to be honest, I have plants like almost in every square foot of this apartment. So there's not really anywhere I could put it that it would be completely isolated. So I'm gonna just have to go the monitoring route and just keep a close watchful eye, make sure the scale isn't spreading to other plants, make sure that it's not multiplying anymore on this plant, and just kind of keep the population under control. And I know that like seems really like I'm doing it the hard way, which I am, but I actually don't work out, and I consider plant care to be like my form of working out. So, you know. So this is the philodendron mexicanum that I was telling you earlier. It's not really doing a whole lot in this mixture that I have it in now, so I just want to see what's going on. Typically I wouldn't touch it while a new leaf is unfurling. You can see here, but I'm going to be very careful. And I do want to get some myco on here since I haven't mycoed this since I received my myco. So I'm going to massage these roots out. These roots are so like thin and hairline, it's really hard to see what's going on, but there are roots. They're not like those typical like big juicy roots that you would see on a plant this size. They're there, they're just not, like you can see it's like being held on by the moss, but I guess I just couldn't see it when it was in the pot. I still can't see it, and I'm looking. So now that I know that it is rooted, it's just like the same color as the moss, what I'm gonna do is, what do I want to do? Think. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just leave it then, and I'll just add some fresh myco and see what that does. Try to ignore Pudge's barking in the background, but it is getting close to 5 p.m. I don't know where this day went. I definitely need to upgrade some equipment. I need like an extra battery. I need to like hook my camera up to a monitor. Pudge. And yeah, we gotta get this sorted because at this rate, I can never finish a video in less than like 12 hours, which is ridiculous. So this is that philodendron alati undulatum. And I kind of just want to get it in sort of a better situation here. It's just in moss. And I would like to see what's going on with the growth point and the sort of root sitch. Pudge, that's my laptop. Can you not? That's really mean. And now you're moving my camera. Oh my gosh, Pudge. I thought you said you were gonna be brave. So you're not gonna be brave? Did you lie? So this is what I'm going to keep it in for now. And I think that it's going to, this is a disaster filming today. Luckily I'm in an okay mood. First it was the lawnmowers that delayed me by like an hour and a half. And now it's these window washers. My window was clean. I don't get why he has to go over it again. Okay. So not the best angle, but this is my philodendron bilietiae, and I mentioned earlier this one has really, really bad algae buildup because I've been really lazy at getting this one preemptively cleaned out with hydrogen peroxide, and I will show you how I do that on another plant. I'm not gonna do a repot per se. I just want to get this glass container cleaned out. So, because this soil is not really like that old and it's not quite due for a repot yet, but the algae sitch is bad. I'm often asked where I get these glass pots, and honestly, I would say that maybe 95% of them are thrifted. And I rarely buy glass containers brand new just because I find them to be really overpriced. Like IKEA sells a set of 3 for like, what is it, like 25 or 29 when I can get this thing for like 99 cents. So yeah, all of the containers that you've seen in this video have been thrifted. So yeah, try a thrift store first before you like buy somewhere like Amazon or IKEA or something. Oh my gosh, it is a wreck here. Why? Okay, the next one I'm gonna do is this fishbone cactus that I showed you earlier. It's got some weird, gross, moldy, yucky something. So I'm actually gonna just throw this soil away and I'm not going to try and reuse it. Just because I don't know what the hecky that is, nor do I want to take a risk kind of having it spread. I don't really want to touch it, but you know what? I think it's just mold. Yeah, it's just mold. It looks grosser when it was in the container. This is my hydrogen peroxide water, and I'm actually gonna add just a little bit more. Don't mind the background noise. Vince is just getting home from work. This is about 50-50 hydrogen peroxide to water, and I'm just going to water the perimeter with it. And I'm actually just going to leave it. Typically, actually I'll show you when I flush it on a different plant, but since this one actually had mold growing in the soil, I'm gonna just leave it in there. And hopefully it gets whatever that was. Hi, Fudge. So this is one that I've been pretty good at doing flushes with, and I can't remember the last time that I did one. It had to be more than a week ago, but I'll do one again. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just gonna take that same hydrogen peroxide, and sometimes I do 100% hydrogen peroxide or like 75. This one's 50 in this case, and I'll just go around and I'll sort of let it sit around the edges, and I'll just do this. It is harder with bigger plants, but you know, kind of comes with the territory if you're going to be doing no drainage potting. So then once I do that, then where am I going to empty this? Just empty it in here. Then I just kind of drain it out. And that's all I do as a preventative measure. You can do this like every other week, every 2 weeks, and it just kind of make sure that like whatever was going to start building up there just doesn't. And yeah, this has been in here for a while, and I'm heavily feeding this one with Marfil, and there is no buildup yet. So yeah, I am gonna water this one though regularly. One thing I do not like working with pon is just like, it's so hard to get off your hands when it's wet. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go in and fill with leca. There's no rhyme or reason to why I'm choosing to do leca pon leca, and honestly it looks kind of cray cray, but I just don't want to prep any more pon. Okay, this is that 69686, and these roots just look gross. There are some brand new roots down here and it looks good, but honestly, I'm not liking it. I kind of want to start over. Yeah, like that's just, oh, it's so mushy. And these are just like completely dry. Oh man. I kind of want to do moss. Like I think that it would do really well in maybe like moss or even just like perlite or something. This isn't squishy. This is nice and firm. These new leaves are so cute. Look at that. I was not prepared for this task. What do I want to do? I think I'm gonna cut it. And I want to make multiple plants, so here you go. The haters can hate all they want, but when I see roots I do not like, I just want them gone from my life. Satisfying. I don't even know how this plant pushed out new growth recently. It's a shame because like these are really nice, right? But the rest of it, it's not even worth trying to save in my opinion. See ya. Ew, it's so mushy. Like, all these roots are just falling off. I think there's a bug crawling on me. Ah! And now I have mushy roots all over my neck. We don't like that. We really, really don't. Yeet! Okay, so I think that this is a really choppable plant. This is totally new growth, so this node is spent if I cut this off. So I am going to, let's see. Oh, that looks fine. So here is the auxiliary point for this node. The auxiliary point for this node is where this growth came out of. So I'm gonna treat this as one plant, and what I'm gonna do is chop it right here. Probably should have sterilized my scissors, but yay, now I have two plants. I'm gonna let that callus for a little bit, and now my hands are sticky because of the extra floral nectaries. The last one I'm going to be sort of cleaning out is this Dischidia oyantha. The rest of the plants just need to be watered and fertilized, and I think that I can start to wrap things up. But I think I need to pot this up. Let's get this open. I'm gonna do that in here. Oh my gosh. It's a solid mass. That's good. Oh my Lanta. Tell me you needed to repot without telling me you needed to repot. There are so many roots. Whoa. I wonder if I could just... I gotta say, this is the first time I've ever had a root-bound plant, like truly root-bound plant in pond. And it's a lot harder to sort of dig out than something in soil. I sort of want to take a photo of this for the gram. Dang it. Ah! Why do I do this to myself? How am I going to take a photo of this? It's going to be like spilling all over the place. Maybe I'll go like this. Oh my gosh. Like this? Is that even a nice photo? Is it? Is it a nice photo? Yeah. I'm gonna regret it if I don't do it. So let me try and get all these loose ones to drop. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna regret this. I'll leave the camera running so you can hear me verbalizing my regret. Oh my gosh, it's already spilling. No. Yeah. Ow. I was just about to say someone is going to step on some loose pon, and it was me. So, is this ASMR? Wait, let me get closer. ASMR segment. I'm gonna be potting it in this container. This is the one before it, so I think it's really gonna like having some extra space because this root ball it was so unexpected. I did not know all of that was inside of the pond. I don't even know how it all fit in there. Yeah, anyway. Ta-da! Yay! Doesn't that look delicious? I love Pon and Lekka together. They're so fun. They're a great pair. They get along really well. So since this one has some active growth on it, I am going to be adding some liquid gold leaf water. Just a tad. And then filling the rest of it with regular water. And this is how much I'm filling up. Water line is right here. And I think it's gonna be happy in here. I got all the plants up before the sun went down. It's a miracle. But I think right now the only concern that I have really is this Tycon with scale. Since I am making the decision to leave it on the shelf in such close quarters to my other plants, I'm basically saying that I'm going to be checking it every single day, doing a as thorough as I can inspection, just to make sure that the other plants surrounding it doesn't get scale. I have used insecticidal soap on all of the plants around it, and hopefully that keeps them away. But yeah, everybody that needed to be repotted is now repotted. I probably need to flush out maybe 2 or 3 more plants that are in passive hydro, but I'm gonna do that off camera because I need to figure out what the dinner plan is, and I've been at this all day. I'm feeling good about it, honestly. I feel like this has been kind of weighing on me over the last like 2.5 weeks because I haven't given it the attention that it needed. So I kind of feel like I can like breathe a little bit and not be so concerned about how the plants are doing. And yeah, I'm glad that I was able to finish everything in one day. But now I need to handle this mess. There are a few plants that I didn't stick back up there, like this sort of like sad silver yan. I want to get this into like pond or something. And I don't know, I think I need to stick this in like a propagation bin or something. But yeah, now I need to clean up, and that's gonna be fun. All right, Pudge, thank you for your help today. You were such a good boy. But now it's time for dinner. Are you hungry? Yeah, you want some food? Okay, before dinner, let's tell everybody thank you for watching this very, very long video. And we hope they enjoyed it. And thank you for subscribing, for the thumbs up and the thumbs down. Tell everybody we'll see you in the next video. Do you want to give them a high five before we go? Okay, high five. Yeah, bye.